I'll start us off with the first pick of the Week 5 Sunday 6-pack presented by FanDuel. I am going with the Philadelphia Eagles -5.5 against the Arizona Cardinals. And I really like this matchup for Philly. Listen, they put up 400 yards of total offense in every single game. Arizona doesn't have the cornerbacks to defend A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. They're 29th in DVOA against tight ends, so they could struggle with Goddard as well. They've been okay in run defense, but Philadelphia just ran for 210 yards, 4 touchdowns against the Jacksonville defense that came into the week as a top run defense. So not really worried about anything in terms of the Philadelphia offense. And then on the other side, this Cardinal team, and I bet on the Cardinals last week, and it was a struggle. If we weren't facing Baker Mayfield, which was really the whole reason I was betting on them last week, it would have been really ugly. But this team, they tend to play better. I don't know what it is, but they tend to play better away from home. They go on the road. And I think there's something like 15-3 on the road over the last 18 with Cliff, but at home, just 9-17 against the spread, 35%. And they're 0-7
on that. Kingsbury 9-17 against the spread at home.
Yeah.
19-7-2 against the spread on the road. I think it's Kingsbury has his models out there. Kyler's playing Call of Duty. When they go on the road, they just get focused for some reason.
It's crazy. And I'm going to actually talk about football with this. It's like the trend is crazy. It makes me feel better about it. Not my usual kind of bet, 5.5 point road favorite, but looking at this, it does make some sense because they haven't covered in their last 7 games at home. The last time they covered at home, October 24th of last year, 31-5 win over the lowly Houston Texans. That was the last time DeAndre Hopkins played a full game at home for them. He got hurt in the next home game against Green Bay. And that was a game where Kyler ends up throwing to AJ Green at the end because probably because there's no Hopkins and he runs the wrong route and it's an interception and they blow that game. Then they get blown out by Carolina at home as a favorite without Hopkins in the lineup. He comes back the next game against the Rams, gets hurt again in that game. They don't cover in that game and they haven't covered at home since. But it's just a major loss for them on offense because since last year, they played just about the same amount of games with and without Hopkins. So we have a good kind of sample size to compare. 10 games with Hopkins, 11 games without him. With Hopkins, Kyler doesn't really turn the ball over. Under half an interception per game. Without Hopkins, it doubles. Now he's throwing about a pick per game. With Hopkins, point differential, plus 11.2. Without Hopkins, point differential, -4. That's a 15-point swing over a 20-plus game sample size and point differential with and without Hopkins in the lineup. With Hopkins, 30.2 points per game. Without Hopkins, 19.2 points per game. 11 points per game they're scoring more with Hopkins in the lineup. With Hopkins, 8.1 yards per attempt passing. That would be right up there near the league leaders. Without him, 6.1 yards per attempt, a 2-yard drop, which would put you near the worst in the league. Kyler Murray this year, here's my stat for you. Kyler Murray this year averaging 5.7 yards per pass attempt. That is second to last, ahead of only Mitch Trubisky. Philadelphia, number 1 in net yards allowed per pass this year at 4.3. So I know this is a spot where usually, sharps go and they hit the home dog. And I just don't believe in Arizona. They've proven that they are not a team that is going to come through at home. And I just think this Philly team is rolling right now. And I think there was kind of a wake-up call for them last week, going down early to Jacksonville. So I think they come out, take care of business here. And it's just been a struggle for Kyler. And it's going to be a struggle until they got Hopkins back. They still got another week. I mean, Rondale Moore comes back last week and he gets the same amount of yards as targets. I mean, it's just ugly for this offense right now.
What happens when you go away from Greg Dortch? I show a little I wanted to back the Cardinals here, but then I remembered it was Cliff Kingsbury and I'm not. But they're also they never did. the way that they're coming out every game is stunning. They're never prepared. And it happened again last year. This year, they're being outscored in the first half 66-16. In the second half at overtime, they're outscoring their opponent 72-37. I mean, it's just stunning. So if you follow Chris here and take the Eagles, you might also have a chance to, get if you want to try and sprinkle a little middle for the Cardinals. There's a couple things I am worried about with the Eagles. Some secondary injuries, Slay practice today, which was good. The offensive line, more importantly, they got a couple guys banged up. Mailata did not practice today, and he was not seen anywhere, which is bad. He's one of their most important players outside of skill position guys. And especially because Andre Dillard is their swing tackle, who could come off PUP list. I don't know if he'll be ready. So a little worried about the offensive line. But I do think the Eagles won't have any trouble moving the ball. I do think that the Eagles are going to start to get are starting to get a little overvalued, although I don't hate playing them here. They benefited a lot from turnovers. I mean, the Jags had 5 turnovers last week. And, if you look at everyone is like Eagles, and look, we love the Eagles coming to the year, but they beat the Lions, the Vikings with Kirk in prime time, the Commanders, and the Jags. Okay. And the Jags was just a wild game in the weather, and the Jags had 5 turnovers. Kyler Murray's legs could be a factor here. So because look, the Eagles, a lot of their success on defense this year has been their ability to generate pressure, and they've been doing so against quarterbacks who can't move. Right? They played Goff, they played Cousins, they played Wentz, and they played Lawrence, who can move a little bit. None of them run. So we'll see if Murray's legs play a part here. But yeah, I wanted to fade the Eagles here, but I'm not. So I don't disagree with you. And if the Eagles win this game, ready? Tell me when you're going to fade them, and they're going to get overvalued. Home against the Cowboys next week. Home against the Steelers.
Woo!
That's it.
2 in a row.
At the Texans. Home against the Commanders. At the Colts. There's
a couple of
home home against the Titans. Maybe
that's what you're gonna fade. You're gonna fade them against the Titans. We already know. That's your spot. But I'll have them against the Steelers. I'll have the Steelers against them, definitely. Probably the Cowboys.
At the Bears. Home against the Saints. They got the
this was the team that they were favored in every remaining game, right? That was the big talking point throughout the week. They'll
lose at the Giants. When do they play at the Giants?